Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of the Hometown Huddle podcast. We're happy to be back after a couple weeks off. We didn't really mean to do it, but spring sort of started up, and then golf season. We started getting into golf matches as well. And so things got busy, and we kind of had to adjust our schedule. But we're back this week, and we're happy to have with us some awesome guests. This is one, when we kind of came up with the idea of the podcast, we sort of made a list of the people we'd want to talk to, and the Jenks family here is one that was top of the list. And so we finally were able to get up the courage, I guess, to ask them. But for anybody wondering, this is the Brandon Jenks family. Royal City has turned into the Jenkstown. They've been regulars. So we're here with Brandon, who is the dad, and also our head baseball coach at the high school. And then with him are his sons, Kaden, Sawyer, and Ben. And then we'll also talk a little bit about Denton, who's on a mission right now, 2-year mission. And is he is it Houston mission or McAllen? Yep. Is he Texas?
Houston.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. And how long's he been out now?
It'll be a year in May, so
okay.
about half.
Nice, yeah. So awesome. So if you hear us refer to Denton, he's also an awesome football player. So we'll just give you kind of a brief overview here. So since 2015, between 2015 and now to 2025, we've won a whole bunch of state championships. And so the Jenks family here has been part of all of those. And multiple 1A Player of the Year honors. So Kaden, Sawyer, and Ben have all been selected as 1A Player of the Year. And also have excelled in multiple sports, with Brandon being the baseball coach, also in baseball and a little bit of basketball. And so we're going to kind of go through the episode here, talk to them a little bit about their journey through sports, being in a small town, a little bit of that sibling rivalry and competition, and kind of maybe their thoughts on what makes them uniquely successful. Yeah. We appreciate you guys coming on. Hopefully I didn't butcher the intro too bad there, but we definitely appreciate you guys taking the time to be here, especially middle of baseball season for Brandon and Ben. Kind of before we jump into that, let's get a little update there. How's the season going so far for baseball?
Pretty good. We're 8-2 today, right? We're tied for the league as we work through things. We played week. We split on Tuesday. And we didn't play great in the first one, played pretty good in the second one. So, we have a pretty good group, 3 or 4 seniors, and we have about 3 or 4 in each class. We have a bigger freshman class, which is good. We've had a JV this year, so we're excited the direction we're going, and lots of opportunity to do some good things this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. So baseball, remind me, kind of your regular season, how long does that last? And then do you go to, is it like a league playoff? Do you go to a district playoff? What's that like?
It's almost exactly like basketball now. Okay. We have our season goes to May 2nd. And then similar to what we did there, like they'll seed 1 through 8, us and the Caribou League guys, right?
Yeah.
And then our 1 through 4 advance automatically. And I think our 5, maybe it's 1 through 3 go. Our 5 play Northeast 1.
Okay.
To qualify. So similar to exactly what basketball was.
Okay,
so.
Nice. And then into that, the baseball tournament. Awesome.
Yeah, and obviously it's a little different than that round, which is 16. Have we go to the final 4, which is 4 teams left, and so each one's a different week.
Okay, nice. Awesome. That's cool. You never know. With all the realignment and stuff every couple of years, I feel like the formats of every sport, they're just kind of always shifting and changing around. But that's a kind of a good segue here into our next thing. So we'll start here with Brandon. So you grew up in our rival town of Connell. Kind of tell us a little bit about your early life there and sports experiences growing up in a small town.
Gotcha. Well, my family moved to Basin City, which is 30 minutes from Connell, but in that school district in 1954. Mm-hmm. And my dad was 4 years old when they got there, and that family kicked out a bunch of wrestlers. My dad was probably the only real football player in that crew. And my dad was a sports guy growing up. He played. He was at Rick's College for 2 years, and then 2 years at Eastern, both wrestling and football. So he was a good blend of teaching us how to work and to play when it was time to play. In Connell, for us, I have not only different. I had a great time. Meaning, we worked on the farm. It was time to work. We worked hard. Sports was a big deal in our house. Like all 3, there's 3 boys, and I have 4 sisters, and we played 3 sports, all of us. Wrestling, we had one brother that joined the dark side and went and played basketball back then. The rest of us were wrestlers. And but football team was decent. Wrestling team was pretty good, and our baseball team was really competitive most of the time there. So, again, at that time, I wasn't a rival with Royal either. Right, we were in different leagues until our senior year, and my senior year, that's when the Royal came back up into the SCAC, and then the whole process started from there, where the rivalry really got intense a few years after I was gone.
Yeah, I kind of understand that. So talking about baseball, did you guys won a state championship in baseball? Were you in high school when that happened?
Yeah, my sophomore year we were state champs. Yeah, it's one of those where I don't know that we even knew we were good until about and I was young enough that I didn't realize what was happening until when you're in the Final Four and there's 4 teams left, I decided that we were going to be all right. And we had some really good baseball players. We were competitive year in, year out. So, yeah, that was the second one Connell had won at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Huh, that's awesome. So, yeah, I didn't. I'd heard that, and so I was like, "Oh man, kind of be good to get the details." So, you finish high school, go off, get married, and then eventually down the line, a lot of years later, you and your family come to Royal. Tell us a little bit about that experience of moving to Royal City and what brought you here.
Rexburg, Idaho. I was in the roof truss manufacturing business, and I was partners with my uncle Dwayne, who owns Jenks Brothers Packing, with Justin in Royal City, and we decided to put the truss plant there at his facility. So one way or the other, I was moving out here. When we started coming, my wife was not so sold on Royal City, as you might imagine. She's from Utah, and obviously I would have probably migrated back to Connell. We talked about Moses Lake, but in May of 09, that's when I finally made the move. And I was hanging out with my family, and then the family moved out in September of that year, and we moved into the same house we live in today in December, which was Derek and Carly Allred's house before they finished their new one up on the hill. So we've been here in this house since 2009.
Wow. Okay. Wow, that's impressive. Kind of similar to us. Were we 2010, Dad? I don't remember, but it kind of the same thing where my dad had come and had been here for a while, and then we all sort of made the move over.
2010. If you remember, Brandon, we went to La Cabana, you and Jen and Katie and I. That was our first time with anybody in Royal. It was like, I think we're very similar situations and probably have been since.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know I was a few months ahead of Larry, and when I came for 6 months, I was by myself, right? Before my family came, and similarly, when Larry came, he came by himself. So I remember you spraying the field by my house and me walking a plate of dinner out there feeling like that was a miserable time of my life. Here's some food.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yes.
No, I can remember.
So, yeah, there, even our kids, our family structures, pretty similar for a lot of years, right? So,
yeah. So let's jump into that here. We have Kaden, who's the oldest, and Sawyer, and then also Ben with us. What do you guys remember? Because you were fairly young when you guys moved here to Royal. What's your memory of that? Don't all speak up at once.
Yeah.
We better call on you. Caden,
Caden, you go first. Oldest goes first. Put the pressure on you.
All right, fair enough. My thing's working. I just remember we were leaving in the middle of football season down there, and that was a big deal for me. Obviously, with football being what it is, but then moving up and being on Royal Gold with Dane Craver and onside kicking the ball every time you kicked off, and 3 reverses run per game and a halfback pass, and just really the people and the new friends that were made almost immediately coming to Royal and that small town feel of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sawyer, how old were you when you guys came here? You'd have been like,
you
guys are a couple years apart?
I had turned 8 a couple, not too long before we had moved up here. I think we moved up here like September of that year.
Yeah.
I just remember being thrilled to be able to play padded football for the first time.
Yep.
In Rexburg, it had always been flag football. And so I still had a couple more years to look before I was going to be able to do that. So coming here and being able to just jump right into it, it was an exciting time. Yeah. We were a little sad to leave Rexburg. We left all of our friends behind, but looking back, I think we found one of the most welcoming communities that we could have chanced into.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I like that you mentioned of the being able to play padded football. We definitely do start them early around here, and I don't know how much that goes into our schooling. Maybe not being as high as we want. We might be taking a few too many hits on the head too early, but that's awesome. So for you guys, so Kaden and Sawyer, you guys, when you were playing in high school, I know for me the Connell rivalry was huge when I was in high school, and I think it was still. I mean, Kaden, you guys played in the finals against Connell. What was that like for you playing against this high school where your dad went to school? Your family's kind of there. They were one of the maybe founding families of that Basin City, Connell area. Did that ever come into play for you guys? Was there extra motivation, or did it not really matter?
I think there was always a little extra motivation. I had cousins on the team for most of the time through my high school career till senior year. And just family friends of my dad that I'd met and known and all those guys. And you definitely wanted to show up to play Connell. There was no doubt about that.
Yeah. I wish I had more. I should have done this, more stats of what the games were kind of like. I just remember those years. I was recently back from my mission at the time, and so I was at BYU, and I'd watch them on YouTube with Mike and Ryan broadcasting. I just remember them always being so tight and just like, I always felt like we should have just killed them, but definitely some awesome games with Connell.
What one quick stat there, Carter? Dad of those things, right? You remember some things very vividly, and one not so good one. I remember the last time we lost to Connell was 28-0 at Connell, Caden's freshman year.
Oof.
So that's one that sticks. Up to cousin that had an interception in the end zone.
Yeah,
all the little things that you remember forever, right? So. It was a bit of a, for me, right? I always tell people, it's like playing your brother. When you play him, you want to beat him anybody, but after that, you can root for him after that. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, I hope that Connell really savored that one because it has been quite the drought since then. I think we're on 13 in a row against them, and so it's we've done all right.
We'll see if we get a little hate mail for bringing that one up.
That's all right. I hope. No, I'm not gonna say anything. We're gonna keep this positive, but I do hope they're listening in a positive way. Everybody from Connell. Well, let's kind of jump into this here. So I love hearing about that. So Kaden, your kind of journey as quarterback. We'll kind of go down here. So sorry, Ben. We will definitely. I want to hear a lot of Ben stories, but we're gonna kind of go in order here for everybody. So Kaden, being the oldest, you come into your freshman year playing quarterback. And at what point did you kind of step in and become the starter that season? It was a couple games in, or was it pretty early? I was gone. I was on my mission at that point, so I'm kind of hearing this now for the first time from a firsthand story. But what was that like your freshman year?
It was a pretty big learning curve. I spent the first 2-3 weeks of the season playing for the C squad, and then Wiley walked up to me and said I wasn't playing in the C squad game that Monday, and that I was going to film. And then he asked me if I was ready to start against Zilla, who at that time was still one of the best teams I think I've seen in high school football. So that was the start of it, third, fourth game of the year.
Yeah. And so what were your thoughts going into that? You know, you're playing Zilla, who was, I mean, if not ranked number one of the top teams in the state that year, and you got a couple C squad games under your belt. Do you remember the feelings or emotions or thoughts going into that game?
I think I was a little too dumb to understand quite what was going on. So I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to go play football. And that's how it went. And it didn't go well, as I'm sure Larry and if Chase was on here could attest to.
Yeah. Let me see if I can look it up real quick. But I know that one definitely, that the start of that season was a little rough. That's one that Wiley and Jeremy talk about a lot as being one of the best, maybe most resilient teams we've had over the years, that kind of lost a few close games and even kind of some blowout games that for a lot of teams would maybe just take the wind out of your sails and kind of derail your season. But you guys ended up finishing really strong that year and, you know, ending up going on the road to Zilla, which for a lot of people was kind of their favorite. You ask a lot of people in Royal, what was your favorite game of all time? And it's not the 70-0 state championship. It's not, you know, this, that, or the other. It's for so many people, it's the crossover game 2014 or 2013, I don't know when it was, against Zilla, going there. So let me see. I'm just trying to pull stuff up here. Maybe one of these days I'll be prepared ahead of time.
I couldn't tell you what year that was, but I could tell you almost every detail of the day of that game, the build up to it, the events throughout the game, the ending. Man, it was incredible.
Well, why don't you tell us about it? Go for it.
Well, from my standpoint, probably especially, I know Katie was out of town. I wasn't even going to go to the game. We had lost. We played them the first time, Kaden. What did we lose? 45 to 7 or something?
0 or 3, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
We scored twice. We had 14.
We did? Yeah. Probably some garbage time stuff. And so I wasn't even going to go to the game. And I went to lunch with Wiley that day down at PGS, and Wiley was stone quiet, just not saying anything. I remember asking him, man, you okay? Everything okay? And he was like, it's going to be a heck of a game tonight. I was in my mind thinking, yeah, right, I'm glad you're optimistic. And then Caleb came home from school and was like, Dad, let's go to the game. So I thought, hey. So we dropped Chloe off at Lynn and Jamie's and went to the game. And, man, I can remember just looking at those guys thinking, there's no way we're going to hang in this game. They were dudes. And, man, we just chipped away. And, man, we took some good punches early, as I remember, and got up. And it just felt like, gosh, can we hang on to this? Can we really do this? It was awesome. And then Brandon, he was flexing his muscles down there on the sidelines too.
Kind of had to. I heard there was some provocations from Zilla. Is the retelling of the story that I've heard. Well, Zilla classically does not. They refuse to build stands on both sides of the field, and then they refuse to sit in the stands. They want to come on the visitor side. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that goes.
Yeah.
Classic small town football things where you're like, yeah, that's Zilla for you.
And a couple of just special things. I can remember when the horn went off to end the game, Wiley his reaction, man, he turns around and waves to the crowd, just like, rush the field, man, we did it kind of thing. And just going down there and being a part of it, it was pretty special. That was a heck of a game.
Yeah. The final score here, 17-7. So Royals up 10-0 in the first quarter, and then Royal Zilla traded scores, and then they got scoreless second half to kind of hold on to it. And Zilla being, really highly ranked in the state, probably one of the favorites to go on that year, and maybe compete for the state title, and end up losing in the crossover. And that kind of kept our streak alive of not missing the state playoffs for 25 years or whatever. But that kind of sparked a little bit of a run for Royal. So, you guys go on, win that game, go to the state playoffs, win a few games. The next year, kind of a similar situation. Not as similar, but a little more experienced of a team, and kind of make a little bit of a run in the playoffs and then lose to Colville or something. And then you hit that 2015 year. And going into that year, Ken, you'd started for 2 years. It's your junior year. What were your expectations going in there? Did you feel like the team was ready to compete for a state title, or was it kind of business as usual, see what happens? What were you thinking going into that year?
I thought we were ready to compete. Obviously, you got to handle business first, and we'd had some losses the year before, like Colville kind of beat on us, and Cashmere beat us early in that year. And we got lucky enough that we played Cashmere early in that 2015 season, and we just beat the crap out of them a bit. So that really kind of solidified it, like, oh, we're better. We can do this year, So after that, I think expectations were sky high, and we ran into Colville again in the quarterfinals, I think, and that was a cold, brutal game. But yeah. So it really just started, and we had a super great senior class who expected a lot out of the underclassmen, and just the whole team, I think, was really pulled together and ready to make that run.
Mm-hmm. And then you go on to play Kings in the final, in the Tacoma Dome. What were your thoughts in that game? The first time you'd probably played in the Dome, and the first time we had been back to the title game since we lost in 2012. Going into the game, you'd seen film, prepared for it. What were your thoughts going in? Did you feel really confident? I know a lot of people that I've heard from that went to the game and see pregame warm-ups were kind of freaking out, like, oh my gosh, these guys are huge. How are we going to do this? We ended up winning 28-7. But what were the thoughts going into the game?
We knew we were playing a good team. They had speed, size. They had a quarterback that could throw and run. Tough guys all over the place. But we really just kind of trusted in what Wiley and Jeremy and the whole coaching staff had really taught us and kind of bred into us to be able to do.
Yeah. No, definitely a big part of it. So, right, you win that one as a junior, and then you were selected as 1A Player of the Year as a junior. 45 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. You had more interceptions on defense that you've actually physically intercepted the ball than you threw, and that, with quite a few passing attempts on offense. So an awesome season. Going into your senior year, did you feel like there was more pressure because you just had this awesome season? You're like, hey, I got to go perform again? Or did it feel like, hey, we've already won. I know I can do this. What was that like, pressure-wise going into your senior year?
First off, just a quick correction. I unfortunately did not win 1A State Player of the Year that year, but I appreciate everything else with it.
Okay. Well, I gotta go and correct Wiley's his spreadsheet he sent me.
That might just be a Wiley stat. So
maybe we couldn't find it anywhere, so we said that's who it should have been.
Yeah,
We'll take it.
From Vashon broke the state rushing.
Oh, was it the Vashon guy?
That's
That
right.
Yeah, they
I
went
remember
like
that.
2 and 8, but he rushed for 6,000 yards. Something crazy.
The last week he had like 55 rushes to break the record.
Yeah, he was good.
He's a great kid.
Yeah.
But other than that, going into the next season, I think we were really, at least I was supremely confident, probably bordering on overconfident, and Wiley really helped temper that down. Got me more focused on the team and everything that needed to happen and the hard work that needed to go into it, because I'd been training all summer and going to all sorts of camps. My poor father had to probably put 15,000 miles on the car that summer,
And he wouldn't change a thing.
Right.
So
Yeah, I'm in.
So what? So kind of memories, and maybe Brandon and sort of kind of chiming in here, because my memory of Sawyer's senior year, one of the favorite ones. This was the first Royal game that I actually went to and sat in the stands. Because from the time we moved here, I was in high school and I was on the team, and then by the time I graduate, I'm not around. But it was the Deer Park 56-0 semifinal, and Sawyer went in and also scored a touchdown in that game. Is that the one, right? Was it a counter keep or something?
Yeah.
Which was awesome, and we blew them out, and they really didn't know what was coming. And we saw people in the parking lot, and they're like, "This is going to be so fun." And we're like, "Not for you guys, it's not." But like, I guess
that's one of the family stories you got to talk about there that we laugh about to this day. So they talked through that run. What happened there?
Yeah, Dad, you can tell them, because you knew the people we ran into, didn't you?
Yeah, Katie's brother had some good friends in Deer Park, and man, they were pumped, and they thought they were going to give it to Royal. They thought they had a chance, and it was just funny. After the game, they were like just completely deflated.
Yeah.
Just kind of like, wow, you guys had a heck of a game, and for us, that was just business as usual, So
Yeah, that seems to have happened a lot over the years. There's a lot of people who have shown up and been like. It's like, do you guys not look at anything ahead of time? I don't know. Maybe people don't just live and breathe. Like, we're looking at stuff on Twitter or whatever all the time and looking at Evan's rankings and stuff. But people multiple times have shown up, even over the years I've been here. Like, we're playing a playoff game, and I go to Spuds or something, get some snacks before the game, and somebody from the other teams they're like, "Are you guys good?" And it's like, where do you think you are? Like, look around our town and look at just, not to dog on it, but just the general quality of things. We're kind of just putting stuff up randomly, and then go look at our football field, and it's like pristine, and I'm like, yeah, we're pretty good. Like, this is the only thing we care about, it seems like. But yeah, so just kind of funny experience. So Sawyer, maybe hearing from you, what was it like for you being the backup quarterback that year to your brother? Was that a difficult experience? Was it a good time? Tell us a little about that.
Well, I mean, I was the backup quarterback on paper, but when push came to shove, it was always going to be Juan Niebla that was going to step in for him. I remember in the state game senior year, Sears Dynas ripped off Kaden's helmet, and so he had to come out. And I was like, "Oh frick! Like, is this it? Am I going to go in?" Because I knew if I went in, I was going to fumble the snap and I was going to give him the ball. But Juan Niebla went in and did whatever he did. And so it wasn't really ever much pressure on me.
Yeah.
Obviously Caden's a tough guy, and I wasn't really ever worried that he was going to get hurt. I was actually going to have to do anything. I was kind of just along for the ride.
Yeah.
Okay, but give us the rundown of your scoring in Deer Park, though. We got to hear that story.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously when we're blowing people out, they send in the C squad and the JV guys, and so I'd taken varsity snaps before, but it was always kind of just hand the ball off, maybe throw a quick screen, just stuff like that. And so Coach Mitchell, who's I don't know if he's still at Ephrata now.
Yeah, he is.
But on JV, he decided that counter left keep was my play. And I don't know why. I ran a 6 flat 40, and I was not quick. I had no redeeming qualities as a runner. But he decided that was my play. And so he called it for me, the Deer Park game. And the Red Sea just parted. I had no one within 30 yards of me, which is a good thing because otherwise they probably would have caught me. And I hit the 5-yard line or the 10-yard line, and I was a little confused. No one had caught me yet, so I had to check behind me to make sure nobody was getting close. I didn't need to make a last-second dive for the end zone.
Oh man. Huh.
Yeah, when we watched that on film, the whole family laughed because Sawyer's checking his blind spot as he's running. What the world's going on here?
Where is everybody?
Yeah. Pretty much.
That is funny. Well, a little so the next week, you go on to play Connell in the Tacoma Dome in the finals. Had a really close game with them early in the season, which we've talked about a little bit before, where Corbin dropped quite a few passes in the first half. But you guys redeemed yourselves and won that game on the road in Connell. But now you're going into the rematch with them with state title on the line. What was that like going into that game?
I think we knew what we were in for a little bit. We'd gotten to play them that year, kind of get them figured out. Obviously, film study plays a huge part in that, and it really kind of just mirrored that 2015 season as well, where that first game was down to the wire, and then the second game we kind of came in and handled business. So I thought our team really had that to fall back onto, just that experience and just being so familiar with that other team, having played them so much, watched them so much on film.
Yeah, felt confident going in. That was a game for me that, especially in the fourth quarter, it was the Kaden Jenks Ironman game. It was we had a lead, and Wiley was like, "We're not even risking handing this thing off." You probably ran it 10 to 15 times in the fourth quarter, just getting pummeled, but 5 yards in a cloud of dust at a time. What was your mentality in that fourth quarter with the lead trying to win? Do you remember it all?
Yeah, for me, and I don't want this to sound selfish, but in that scenario, I wanted me to have the ball.
Yeah.
I felt that it was something that I should do, that I could help the team in the best way that way, and just go out there and be tough. It helps that I was probably the biggest guy out there outside of Rayner.
Yeah.
For the Royal Knights. So,
you say that well, Kaden.
Yeah,
you really do, because that's the way I remember it. Was Kaden was like, "We're going to win this game. You guys are with me, or I'm going to carry you, one of the two. But we're going to win this game," and it was awesome. You were heart and soul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the cool thing I think in Royal. A lot of times is we could run the quarterback a million times or something, but we don't need to. But once it gets to that last game, there's no tomorrow. It's ride your horses into the dirt. So it was awesome. It was so fun to watch. My favorite play from that game was, what was the tight end's name? Crunchy or something?
Yeah, Crunchy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was the craziest hit I've ever seen in person. Because they threw, I don't know what the route was to him, but Kaden came down from his safety spot, and I mean, the kid's face was all bruised because he just took his head clean off. It was crazy.
Oh man, we saw him after the game, and he was still lightheaded. Had a chin strap mark up in his nose. It was rough.
Let it be known for the Connell folks. Let it be known there is video and picture proof. I hit him in the chest.
Yeah. Well, no, seriously, yeah.
His own helmet doing that.
It's good. Yeah, you hit him right in the chest, and it was just just whipped so hard that's what happened. It wasn't. That's what was so cool about it for me. Even watching it was a clean hit, just so hard. For you, playing quarterback and safety, did you ever have any concerns about flying up and delivering a hit, knowing you were also the quarterback, or was it just, hey, I've got to do what I got to do?
No, I got to do what I got to do for sure. I think that concern mostly went to the coaching staff. Obviously, growing up in Royal, you play every position. You play linebacker, you play D-end, safety, whatever it was. You just went out and did your job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. It was some really fun games to watch. For me, that was a very special year, especially that game, because I had planned to just watch it online, and I remember being at BYU and talking to my dad, and we were just like, let's just look and see if there are any flights. And it just so happened there was one that was just happened to be a great price. And so that morning, because the 1A games back then were always Saturday early, so I flew in that night, watched the game, and then flew back the next day, and just so cool to see in person. Let's kind of continue on here. We've had Kaden, we've had him talk. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know. We're going to continue. We'll get to Sawyer. Ben's still waiting patiently, hopefully. But continuing on the story here. So Kaden graduated after that in 2016 season, class of 2017. And so going into the next year, it was kind of at least from being far away, it was kind of like, okay, cool, Sawyer, next man up. What was that like for you, Sawyer, going into that next year, knowing you could be the starting quarterback? Did you feel like, hey, like I've got this job in the bag, or did you feel like there was other competition for the starting job? What was that like for you?
There was definitely competition. The front runners were me and Lorenzo Myrick, and Lorenzo was 3 times the athlete that I was, and probably will ever be. He could run, he could throw, he could tackle, which were two things that I couldn't do. And so it had me a little bit nervous. I had the hopes that I would get it, that I would get the call, but nothing's guaranteed. I figured that Wiley would probably pick whoever was best for the job. Mm-hmm. But about halfway through the summer, he came to me and said, Sawyer, you're going to be our guy this year. And I feel like that his confidence and Jeremy's confidence in me kind of helped me to take the next steps and actually becoming a halfway decent quarterback. I remember I went to a Taylor Barton football camp. It was like beginning of my sophomore year or something like that. And then I went later after my junior year, and he I was talking to him after, as everybody does. He was like, Sawyer, you've improved a lot. I'm going to be honest. Last year you came here, you kind of looked like shiz, but now you look pretty good now. And so there was definitely a lot of growth that needed to happen before I was ready to do it. Mm-hmm. But between going to camps, between the work that we put in over the summer as a team, I felt like I was kind of able to grow into that position as a starting quarterback. Mm-hmm. And having great coaches like Jeremy and Wiley and Kyle and everybody who are right there, and they have your back and they're rooting for you. Everybody wants you to succeed, and that really goes a long way with a young kid who's just trying to figure out if you can actually handle it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, handle it you did. Looking at the stats here, that season for you still ranks 3rd all-time for passing yards in a season, and was actually, at the time, was the highest passing yards ever in a season. You broke the record of 2,790. It's been passed by Caleb and Lance in the past few years, but 39 touchdowns, almost 2,800 yards, and then completions, I don't know, it's on here somewhere. 149 completions. We had a late join here. Corbin, can you hear us?
What up, boys?
Okay.
What's up, Corbin?
Perfect. So Corbin sort of bridged the gap between Kaden and Sawyer. So was a 1,000-yard receiver Caden's senior year, and then Corbin's senior year was Sawyer's junior year, and went for 1,000 yards again. Corbin, what was it like for you playing for being on the end of passes from both these quarterbacks? And what was the difference between them? What was it like?
Don't hype me up too much. I didn't do that much. I just caught it. It was great, man.
Sometimes.
A little heat came off the ball from my junior year to my senior year. It was a little bit slower. But some say that's easier to catch. So
it's called maturity.
Yeah, there we go. Better ball placement.
Maturity. That's a good one, Kaden. I like it.
Yeah, it was great. Two great players, man. Two great kids too.
Yeah, just a couple of great young men. So that year, we'll kind of hear from Sawyer and Corbin here. You guys were on the back of back-to-back championships. We'd never in Royal had a three-peat, as they say. We'd won a couple in a row and then made the semifinal, 04, 05, and then, are close in 06. What were your expectations for the season going into 2017? First year starting quarterback, but Corbin, you had, experienced, playing in the state championship before. Did you guys feel like, hey, this is something we can do, or you're like, hey, this is ours for the taking? What were your thoughts going into the season?
Sawyer, I'd love to hear what you thought.
I mean, we expected to win. Yeah. I don't think it was ever like something that we doubted if we were going to be able to do it or not. We knew how good we were. We knew the teams that we were. We knew if we were willing to put in the work, to put in the time, that we should expect to win. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's something that we ever really lost sight of.
Yeah, absolutely. You get all the way down to that, having an awesome season, get all the way to the end against Meridian with, what was his name? Burkett? Am I thinking of the right guy? Who was crazy? That's got to be one of the craziest, just up and down games we've had in Royal. We never trailed during the course of the game, but it was constantly, we'd score, miss a PAT, then they'd score, go to kick the PAT to take the lead, and they'd miss or get blocked, and then we're trading fumbles and but score, just up and down the whole time until we finally go out. What were your memories of that game, both Sawyer and Corbin?
Go ahead, Corb.
Before I answer that question, I'm gonna go back to the last one and just I'll just say my class, when we were freshmen, we went 2-7 or something like that. So at the beginning of that year, there might have been a little bit of worry from the upperclassmen, or at least maybe some of the seniors. But luckily, Sawyer's class was really good, so they carried the load a lot. But I don't know that we were ever worried, but maybe there was a little bit of doubt there from us. Anyways, championship game, yeah, I just remember thinking, damn, this kid's good, first of all. He could do literally everything. I wonder if they would have been any better if he played defense. But, yeah, it felt like he could literally do everything. But honestly, our team was really good. Sawyer came, played insane. Alonzo Hernandez played insane. And then I remember we had a few last-minute substitutions. So, like, Logan Gilbert was an absolute stud in the game. Jack Diaz even did some. But yeah, that game was crazy. It was very up and down. I hated those kids on the other team too. I don't know why. I do remember that their coach, like the whole week or something in interviews, was like, "Oh yeah, we have no chance against this team. Like Royal's so good," and he had this way of just being so annoying it would piss you off. And then, so anyways, we wanted to destroy them. They were really good, but it felt really good to win that game. Let's just say that.
Mm-hmm. Sawyer, what was your memory of that game? Do you have a moment in the game that sticks out to you? Anything that was special?
I mean, one big moment was, I don't even remember at what point of the game it was, but on the punt return, the Angel Farias coming down, hurdles their 6'3" Simon Burkett like it was nobody's business. That was a pretty electric moment. Other than that, I don't except for like the final where it's just Hail Mary ball that goes up and a couple guys go up and Corbin swats it down. It's just the feeling of like relief and happiness that you'd actually been able to pull it off and get it done, because that game was a lot of up and down, and if our confidence ever wavered if we were going to be able to pull it off, it was during that game, because like Corbin was saying, Simon Burkett he was a different animal. It was nothing that we'd seen so far in that season, so it took a lot of adjustment to be able to kind of figure out how to handle that.
Yeah, that's I would say too, just watching it, just so many different adjustments, and then just the answers on offense, I think it was awesome. And you guys pulled out a lot of different things, right? Of, double pass of Corbin and, throwing the ball around. Alonzo rushed for a few touchdowns, but a lot of them were, at least a couple of them were ones where you and Corbin connected on a pass and got down to the 1 yard line. And I just remember all of those just being like, oh, relief when we're, get down to the 1 yard line. And man, what was just a crazy game for sure. We'll kind of continue on here. So Corbin graduates. Thank goodness. You guys drop the dead weight of Corbin. I'm just kidding.
Get rid of that guy, man.
But go into the 2018 season, and maybe, I don't want to bring up any painful memories. I think I can speak to that as well of, in your senior year coming up a little bit short in moments where you felt like you maybe should have won or whatever. But I think a lot of times we gloss over that 2018 year and it was a group that was really special, that did some awesome things, and maybe didn't end up in a title. But what were your memories of your fellow class members that senior year? Who were some of the guys that were real contributors that year, Sawyer?
The big contributors that year was like Gage Christensen, Lonzo Hernandez, Angel Frias, Logan Gomez, Javier Hutron, Jack Diaz. At least from our class, we had a bunch of juniors that stepped up in big ways, especially on defense. We had like Lorenzo Myrick and Tyler Allred at the safety positions, and even Cooper Christensen as a sophomore stepped up. So there was a lot of contributors there, but I don't know if everybody else has the same memory, but I just remember being in middle school thinking, like, even telling my dad, like, when we're seniors, we're gonna win a state championship. And so to come all that way and to have done all that work to come up short, it's definitely heartbreaking. But time heals all wounds.
Yeah. Eventually, someday it will, right?
Yeah, it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah. No, I hear that it eventually happens. I don't know about that, but we'll see. Do your brothers ever let you live it down? Or are the brothers kind-hearted about that year?
Denton is the only one that would ever give me a hard time about it.
Really? Okay, that's good. I don't know, because now we're getting into this. So Denton, obviously, he's on his mission right now. But let's hear from your brothers. Denton always just seemed like more of I don't want to say sweetheart, but maybe just because he didn't talk that much, or maybe because he was a lineman and I just have the soft spot for linemen coaching that. What's kind of the brotherly dynamic here between everybody? Out of you guys, who's the most competitive? Or are you all just...
I think Brandon's the most qualified.
Yeah, there we go. We need to hear from the dad.
I'm not the most competitive. My wife's the most competitive in the family.
There we go.
And that's where it comes from, probably worse than me. But I would say that the older two boys had a rivalry unmatched with most young men. And Sawyer is the most vocally competitive. Right? Nice. When he loses, when he was a young man, there was going to be hell to pay for anybody that he got in the way. Ben and Denton's he's the quiet assassin. Ben's a raging psychopath. If you're watching him play football this year, right, you think he's a little mentally unstable because he's so I guess they're all really competitive. How do they channel the energy to show you what they're really all about, right?
Yeah.
Each one's a little different.
Absolutely. Well, getting into Ben here. So Ben is awesome. I have a soft spot in my heart. I always will for Ben. So he was an 8th grader when I first came back to coach. And Ben, how big were you as an 8th grader? Just ballpark? About half the size of what you are now, if that.
Yeah, 110 pounds probably. I think I was like 100 pounds.
Yeah, not very big. He didn't say a lot. He was in my class, but I was like, okay, this is Ben Jenks. Like, this is Kaden and Sawyer and Denton's brother. Like, awesome. And I'm getting to coach 8th grade football, and I don't know anything, but he's going to play quarterback at least a little bit, even if he doesn't want to. He has to. We did. I have the stats for that season. I think you didn't throw an incomplete pass. We only had like 3 games because it was the COVID, or 2 games. It was a COVID season. But Ben, through over the years now, me and my dad talked about this, plays like he's the youngest brother and has had to fight for everything he's ever had out there. So Ben, going into your junior year, that was my first year coaching with the high school, and you came to a bunch of JV games with us just to play. You and Ezra both were like playing defense on the varsity and then having to come play like JV quarterback because we didn't really have anybody else. But what was that like for you, your junior year, kind of your first year starting? I can't remember. Did you? I think it was kind of you started a few games kind of back and forth situationally. But what was your experience? High school football going into your junior year.
Expectations were I wanted to be starting both sides, but that didn't really happen off. But that was okay. It was like I still gotta go play quarterback and stuff and do things JV wise for the first like 4 games or something, and then after that they said it was a little. Can't remember what like Jeremy said, but it was a little like suspicious that one of your like best players is over there playing JV games and stuff, so they. Took me off JV.
Suspicious.
Yeah. I think Othello or somebody might not have been too happy.
Yeah. And so, like, it was fun. Defense is where it was what I love to play. So, I got to go play where I love it. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ben is definitely the Taysom Hill, Swiss Army knife, that he does it all.
Yeah. That's for sure.
I got to put my 2 cents in on Ben because I think every grid kid coach has their handful of favorites, and Ben is definitely in that group for me. He was one of the smallest kids on the field, but gave so much effort. The thing with Ben is he would be crying half the game. Ben was in tears, but he would not come out of the game. He would fight to stay in the game, even crying. Ben, you sure you're okay? Yeah, I'm okay. Let's go. Just tougher than nails. He would hit hard and bounce off because he was such a little guy, but he'd just keep bringing it. And then I have to say, Ben, since we got you here, the other thing that most people don't know about Ben Jenks is he has the most beautiful head of hair probably on the face of the planet. I told him a year ago when he cut his hair, I may have shed a tear over that because it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Good genetics for growing hair, just not keeping it, Larry.
Yeah, you got to enjoy it while you have it.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, so I think the Swiss Army knife is exactly right. We never really got to see the Ben Jenks quarterback show just because of Lance, right? Lance is awesome and everything, but I don't think people realize what, really, yeah. I think if Lance ever had to go down for a few plays, we had quarterback in the bag with Ben, and obviously special teams this year scored a whole bunch of special teams touchdowns, scored a bunch of offensive touchdowns, scored a bunch of defensive touchdowns, was kind of the leader of a defense this year that we've mentioned this before, but this is the craziest stat to me, gave up 4, 5, 6 rushing touchdowns or something on the whole season, but we scored as many fumble recovery touchdowns as we gave up rushing touchdowns, gave up 13 passing touchdowns, we had 13 pick sixes, and you were selected as the 1A defensive player of the year this year. What did it mean to you to have such a successful season? I know in the past, you've talked about when we would have team things, maybe the pressure, maybe not pressure, but just maybe internal pressure from yourself of wanting to be as good as your brothers. What did these last 2 seasons, really just incredible seasons and winning, our 4th and 5th straight state titles, what did that mean to you? And especially the kind of those all-state honors that came out, being that player of the year on the defensive side. What was that like for you?
Well, like winning that defensive player of the year thing, I was like kind of surprised because I've always been like the smallest, and so when I finally came out and was like, I guess considered the best defensive player, I was just kind of shocked a little bit with that. Like I don't know, I feel like I kind of deserved it a little bit, but then I was still shocked. And then like junior year, going into there, I was just like I was trying to prove that I could be as good as my older brothers and stuff. And I was just trying to like get a mission done, I guess. And so like by the time we won state that year, I was just like, okay, just gotta get one more now. Like the job's not done, I guess. And so, but by the time I got to the senior year, I was like, I'm gonna go play my own ball. I'm gonna just do what I can do and not try to prove anything, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. The only disappointment I had this year from you, Ben, is that you only played one game in the cowboy collar. That was I was so excited. I can't remember, was it La Jolla or something? You busted that out, and I was like, oh man, this is awesome. And then you played the one game with it, but it was just that mentality of intensity all the time. You'd make a tackle and the guy got it was an awesome tackle, right? Like this happened multiple times where you tackle somebody but it was like a 2-yard gain and just not happy about it. But yes, you 150% deserved. I was going to riot if you didn't get defensive player of the year, for sure. Very well deserved. Going to Kaden and Sawyer, what was it like for you guys, seeing your little brother? I don't know the age gap between you guys, but what was it like for you guys seeing this, who your little brother, who's always just kind of a little kid, go out and dominate like this over these past couple of years?
At least for me, I got the chance to watch them all go through, so there's a lot of pride that can be taken from watching how good all your brothers really became. Sawyer, who grew a lot between that sophomore and junior year. Denton, who I always thought was too nice to ever be a good football player, but who knew he liked being mean and beating on people. And then especially Ben, just really just growing up and through grit and toughness, really just being the best player he could be.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts?
For myself, it's like going through the whole high school football process. It was a very good experience for me. It was very cool watching like Denton and Ben be able to go through the same experience, to be able to go and like be contributors to a successful football program, and not just contribute, but to like excel at it, to be some of the best. And so I think that watching Ben and Denton play football has gotten me more excited than any point in playing any football games myself. And I mean, like you can ask Corbin, you can ask the guys to play with, like any touchdown that I threw, I was pretty excited. I wasn't sure when the next one was going to be, and so it's kind of saying a lot to that. Like that was the excitement that I would share for these guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I can definitely agree with that as an older brother. Just the excitement of seeing your younger brother succeed. I remember that, the Meridian game, I was driving, I was going to watch it with my grandparents, and so I just had it on my phone. I was listening to it driving in the car on the way there, and Corbin picked off a pass early in the first quarter, and I was screaming and yelling in my car. I accidentally hit the horn, and I'm like at a red light in Utah. People are freaking out. But just that energy that comes from that is awesome, of seeing your younger brother succeed. Brandon, for you, what was it like, having all your four boys, your oldest four, because we'll get into, we got to shout out the girls here at the end, but at any point did you feel like, man, am I dreaming? Like what's happening? Kaden starts as a freshman, has all the success, winning state championships. Okay, now Sawyer's a starting quarterback. Okay, now he's winning state championships. Okay, Denton's starting, as a sophomore. We win some more state championships. Now Ben, guess what? More state championships, more player of the year, more all-state. What was that like for you as a dad over this past decade?
Pretty awesome, all things considered, right? And this Livy will peek into what kind of psychopath I am, Carter, right? We moved in 2009, right? And remember, 2009, Connell went to the state championship in 9, 10, and 11, right?
Yep.
And again, I'm still supporting my guys a little bit, but it's happening, right? I'm getting some black and gold in my soul. Mm-hmm. And 2012, when you guys lost in the state finals, right?
Yeah.
I got a lecture from my wife for a week that I need to calm down and relax. And then 3 days later, when I was still mad, she's like, geez, you need to grow up a little bit. So that fast, I'd been won over by the old black and gold of Royal City, right?
Yep.
And, right, obviously we had some good teams, but in 15, I remember whenever it was, when Kaden's, that group won the first state championship,
Mm-hmm.
I remember being so overwhelmed, like everything had to go perfect. I don't know that we can ever do this again.
Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking that, right?
Yeah.
I knew we had some people coming, but the time and the energy, the work that it takes. And I've told all my boys that they're way better football players than I ever was, and I ever dreamed they would be. And I again, things like that. We talk about expectation for a great football team, a good thing or a bad thing. Sometimes our boys talk about relief rather than joy when they win. And it's a little interesting how that's evolved over the years when you watch all these kids that have come through there. And again, my boys have been, every one of them, way better at so many aspects of life than I dreamed possible. So again, that goes to the community that supports, that goes to great coaches that are the best at what they do. And then not just me, but all the other people in the community that are pushing for success for your kids, not just in football, but in life, right? We want them to be good people, good parents, good community members. And that's where the process is pretty phenomenal to watch it happen over the years. And I'm a big crybaby. Those of you know me well. I've shed a lot of tears over football and success of my children. And I don't know that it could get any better, right? So I have spent a small fortune on state championship rings. I wish they could.
Yeah, Justin's probably has you on the. Yeah. No, I
honestly was thinking today when thinking about the podcast, and I was like, man, I don't know if Brandon and I can make it through this without crying at some point.
Well, I read the question. I was like, ooh, I don't know if I can go there or not. That'd be.
Yeah. No, I think, and obviously our community is awesome and a great credit, but I think people, if they knew how much work that Brandon and Jen put into supporting the football team, they would be shocked. I mean, it's amazing at film, and when we have long road games, just the cinnamon rolls and lunches and breakfast, but just the amount of food that is produced. And support and just different things for all the boys on the team from you guys is amazing.
That's been
fun. It is.
Even at the banquet this year, right? Wiley got my wife to cry, which it doesn't happen easy. She's been way more. Can you be more into it than I am? In some ways, yes, right. She's superstitious and has to do things the right way and everything else in the same fashion, so we don't upset any of the apple cart when we get to playoff season. So that's pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
That's awesome. Shout out to Jen. That's great.
It's for real. I think all of the coaches, we couldn't even possibly express enough gratitude for what she did for the team over these past bunch of years. So obviously we got the four boys. We've all been really successful. But now coming up the line, we got Lizzie and Annie, right? The two sisters. Yep. Brandon, what's that been like for you? We're getting to the dad segment of the podcast with me having a daughter. I'm always asking for advice, and this might not be the most interesting for people, but what's it been like for you now? Have your four boys and then two girls here at the end. What's the difference between parenting boys versus girls?
Oh, that's a deep question. There was a day I thought I was going to have no girls, right? So at four boys, I was pretty content. And like I say, I've got my princesses at the back end. It is very different. You talked a little bit before about competition amongst the boys. And my boys were intense competitors about everything, right? Meaning a backyard basketball game is not a basketball game unless it ends in a wrestling match and a fist fight, right? So there was war at our house many times over the years. And when you go to little girls, it is very different, right? They're huggy and lovey, and I enjoyed my girls more than possible. But even how they play sports and how do you coach them and how do you interact, it's all part of the learning curve for me, Carter. And the difference, it's a different kind of intensity for sure. I'm not so sure I'm good at either one of them, so that's why I'm a little bit afraid to give advice about being like everything. Right, one thing that I try to do that life has changed a little bit is every time I see my kids, I tell them I love them, right? Because in the end, right, a stupid sport doesn't matter that much. The relationships, this part of thing, we can go back and reminisce what joy it brings into our life. But who they are, who they become. Those things are all vehicles that this made such a difference in their lives. And because of that, it makes me pretty dang happy. And again, pretty amazing ride so far. We got some girls basketball, softball, and wrestling maybe, and whatever else still, soccer coming in the future. So I'll transition to a girl dad now for a little while.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some good years coming up for sure. It's fun for me being in the middle school. So Lizzie's in 8th grade, and as a student is just so sweet and nice and just so polite. Mr. Christensen, can I use the bathroom? Can I do this? Can I, it's like, yeah, Lizzie, you're done with your work. You can, you're fine. Read a book. You don't have to ask me to read a book type thing. And then you go and watch the girls' basketball team, and the genetics are strong. She is hustling and fighting for every rebound and running, playing kind of post because she's taller and running baseline to baseline, just 100% effort. You're like, oh, yep, that's Jenks right there. So I think it's going to be some exciting years here in the future.
Yeah, those are going to be some fun stuff yet to come. So,
well, before we kind of wrap up here and finish things, once again, guys, thank you so much for coming on. But I want to kind of hear, I think people would enjoy this, maybe just a little life update from everybody, especially. So Kaden went on, played football at Weber State University and then at Montana Western. Tell us a little bit about where you're at in life now. Update the people, the fans.
Well, if there are any fans, I live in Gardner, Montana, which is the north entrance to Yellowstone Park. And I work as a shooting guide for the Sage Lodge, mainly working with trap shooting and archery shooting.
Awesome. Yeah, that's exciting. And, having talked to you a few weeks ago, talking about 6-man football, you said there's no way that you'd be able to go on and coach 6-man football. Is that right? Nothing's changed in the past few weeks?
Not so far. The itch to do something with football is there, but I don't know if it's broken through to 6-man yet.
You might have to get pretty desperate to coach some 6-man, but hey, you never know. Awesome. Well, that's exciting. Sawyer, what about you? Update the people at home.
Well, after high school, I went on a mission and then went to BYU for a couple of years. Last year, I decided that I didn't want to do college anymore, and so I started an apprenticeship as an IBEW electrician. So I've been working that job for the last few months. Got married in 2023, and I've been married for a year and probably about 6 months now. And my wife and I are expecting our first child in the end of July this year. So
nice. Boy or girl, do you know? Or are you guys going surprise? All right, there we go. Quarterback of the future, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
Wiley, write it down. Awesome.
Yeah, so you got to tell them the rest of the story, who your wife is.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we need to know this.
Okay, so my dad in high school he had his group of guys, just like we all had our group of guys, and one of them was named Travis Salisbury. He was a great baseball player. Played other sports as well, but he moved to California where he started his family. And Kennedy, my wife, is the second oldest of his family. So we've got a lot of Columbia Basin blood flowing through our son's veins, to say the least.
Yep.
Yeah, those when your son marries one of your best friend's daughters, it's a different feeling when you'd never dare imagine.
Yeah.
And obviously, first grandkids got this grandpa to be pretty excited. So,
yeah, that is exciting. Brandon, are you have you thought about grandpa names at all, or are you just keeping it classic, going with grandpa?
I don't know that I even care. I'm so excited. I like babies, unlike most men, so I'm excited to get my hands on this little man here one of these days. So,
yep. Yeah,
it is pretty awesome.
It's quite the thing. All right. Well, Ben, update us on kind of your plans from here on out. So baseball season right now, once school's over and you graduate, what are your plans from there, at least what you maybe have planned for now?
I plan to go to BYU for a year and then go on a mission. I'm going to major in exercise science right now.
Nice.
And as far as I'm at right now.
Yeah. That's awesome. No, we're excited for you for sure. Just to see the awesome things you can accomplish. And it's been awesome just for me. I feel so grateful to have been able to live here and just interact with you guys. To be able to go play golf with Kaden, the times we've been able to. It's been a few years now, but we need to get back out there. And play intramural basketball, with Sawyer and just watch him dunk while I'm like, I'll be the bench warmer for intramurals. And then be able to coach Ben and be a part of this. You guys are awesome, and just one of the the families of people that really make our community go. So thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Likewise, guys. Right? Obviously, we came similar times. What a different town if we didn't show up, I think. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say our kids have definitely had an impact on each other and on us as parents. So it's been awesome. Thanks, you guys.
Yep. All right. Well, we want to thank everybody for tuning in this week and listening. We appreciate you. Once again, we don't have a planned episode for next week, but we're committed to doing this every week now that we kind of know our schedule a little bit. And so we're gonna have an episode next week, so tune in. Please subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, leave a review, share with your friends. It kind of just helps spread the word and get this out here. So thank you guys, and we'll see everybody next week.